Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Tailgating with Lot C. Today, we're serving up some food for thought on Jumpstart.
Jumpstart, the new set from Wizards of the Coast with a lot of reprints, but also a lot of new fun cards, would you say?
I would say that, yes. Jumpstart is... the previews of Jumpstart, I've been having a lot of fun looking at them. They're looking really awesome.
You know, as a Modern fan, usually I wouldn't be excited for a product such as this because I'm looking for the next new card to put in a Rakdos deck or putting it in one of my favorite decks. But however, with all the reprints that we get, they're just making budgets easier for everyone for building Commander decks to Modern decks and all other sorts of decks across the board. It should be a lot of fun.
And you know what? I mean, this set is being touted as a historic set, a Commander set, Legacy, Vintage, but you know, there's a lot of Modern cards in this set too.
Absolutely. Path to Exile being one of them.
Oh, yeah.
Staple for years to come now.
Yeah, Path to Exile. There's a lot of cards that we want to talk about from this. And I'm just going to kind of, I guess, start off going through some of the more prominent cards that have been reprinted in this set and some of the newer ones as well. And I'm actually going to start it off with new Terramorphic Expanse artwork.
Oh, it looks so nice.
It looks awesome, doesn't it?
Having just all five like mana colors inside of it subtly with like different spread apart like continental drift areas like Pangea expanding. It's very creative.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. Yeah, I mean, we never had we've always had the same exact Terramorphic Expanse artwork since it came out, and you know, a card that's similar to it like Evolving Wilds. So it's just basically the same exact thing. That card gets new art all the time.
Yeah, I know that. I have art that I love from Dark Ascension. There's also ones from Khans of Tarkir with like a lava flow. That one's got a bunch of different revamps, but Terramorphic Expanse is always been the same kind of weird artwork that it's fine, but it's nice to get something a little different.
Yeah, definitely. One of the other ones that I'm excited about the reprint for is Nixithid.
I do like Nixithid. I already put it in a budget deck for my own recently.
Now, when Nixithid got previewed from Jumpstart, I kind of realized that this was going to be an interesting set for sure. More than just, basic, easy to throw in cards that are played in Commander a lot, like Terramorphic Expanse, but also cards that are genuinely played a lot. And
True.
That people really want to see.
I mean, Oracle of Moldiah is one just named from many of them, which, I mean, is a staple Commander card. I mean, you're playing a Arena deck, there's a good chance you're playing Oracle of Moldiah.
You're definitely going to want to if you could afford it.
It's the fact that it was $40. I don't know what it's currently at now. Beforehand, and never been reprinted, only just in Zendikar. I mean, that's a notable thing because Wizards is, shuffled their feet when coming to a lot of other reprints.
That's for sure. I mean, another card that comes to mind when you talk about that is Exquisite Blood.
Exquisite Blood, staple in a lot of black Commander decks.
Staple in a lot of black Commander decks for sure. Yeah, this set is honestly just full of awesome cards we can look at.
It feels like they've kind of paired together some of the core set 21 and the Jumpstart mechanics. Like there's a new Sanguine Bond style card with a new Vampire from 21, and then an Exquisite Blood preview gets put on the market. And then, Massacre Worm in 21, and then there's Oracle Moldiah and Jumpstart. It's like up a staple black card, then a staple green card.
Definitely, yeah.
It seems like they're just kind of a lot of, again, push Commander product, although, to be fair, the set has a lot of different variants. But, you know what, as long as it's making the game cheaper for everyone, you really can't complain.
Definitely can't complain about this set at all. Everything down to the reprints, the new cards, and the artwork on some of these new basic lands that they've been putting out is so cool.
It's a nice line because they're not exactly promo exactly, but they're just very good flavor-wise. Like, the Dragon Land, the Unicorn Land, the Goblin Land. There's just so many cool-looking, probably going to be affordable lands. If you want to say you're playing that Krenko deck in Commander, you can have all your mountains be Goblin Mountains, or you're playing that Lathis deck in Commander, it could be that, or even any other format. There's goblins in Legacy or goblins in Modern.
Right, and it's nice to have some options for those players that don't want to fork out a ton of money for unhinged lands or unglued even at those prices, which those aren't super expensive, but
they add up
compared to basic lands, especially if you're going to play like a monocolored Commander. For example,
or even in Modern,
yeah,
you need those mountains.
You're going to have all kind. You're going to have so many basic lands. in your deck, it'd be a lot of fun to actually have a bunch of cool, unique artwork on them, and at an affordable price.
It is very nice to see that, exactly.
Some of the other reprints we have Phyrexian Tower.
Fantastic reprint.
Core Spirit Dancer.
Nice reprint for Boggles.
I mean, we have Linvala.
Oh, right, of course, the Angel.
Yeah, I mean, you go through and you just see like all these reprints and it's just really nice to see that a lot of these cards that are, somewhat expensive or pricey a little bit at least, they're gonna be dropping down to very playable prices for sure for the vast majority of all the players that play Magic, not just the ones that are so invested into it that they're willing to shell out the money.
Absolutely. As we were mentioning last podcast, with the diversity aspect, one of the barriers to entry we never want to have is race or any sort of thing like that in Magic. But another one is financial stability. We can't just have all these people that can afford a 4-figure deck out here playing Commander or playing Modern. We need these budget 2-digit, maybe only just barely venturing to 3-digit decks for everyone, because at the end of the day, it's a game. And people aren't going to be able to afford these crazy-ass expensive decks.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, depending on your play group with Commander, for example, you can have more budget-centric decks and stuff, but it's nice to be able to afford some of the cards that are played in those top-tier decks because they're a lot of fun to play with because they're so powerful.
Absolutely.
But they were hard for a lot of people to get their hands on just because not a lot of people want to spend, $30-$40 on a single card.
Yeah, not every deck can have a Mana Crypt at $150 in it.
Exactly.
Or a $50 Ancient Tomb. It's just not exactly a feasible way to do it.
Mm-hmm. So some of these reprints are very, very welcomed.
But a lot of good new cards too.
There are a lot of good new cards.
Especially for Commander, of course. But still.
Do you have any brand new cards from the set that you're interested in?
Oh, absolutely. Apparently, according to Scryfall, what is currently a $60 card, but I don't see that happening actually, is a Tiny Bones Trinket Thief.
Mm-hmm.
A 1 generic and 1 black skeleton rogue that has a lot of discard synergies, and you know how I like my black decks, it fits perfectly for me. Plus the card art is just super cute.
Yeah, it is. I when that one came out, everyone was super excited about it. The different deck ideas that I was coming up with pretty much right on the spot of different cards I could pair it with.
Nyxathid being one of them.
Nyxathid being one of them from this set.
Perfectly.
Being reprinted in this set, at least.
It was very good on brand. What about you?
What's that Minotaur's name?
Sethrune. Sethrune?
Sethrune?
Saffron Olive, as we all like to call him now.
We'll have it on the screen here for you. Yeah, but I've already put together a Minotaur tribal commander deck with him as the commander in Rakdos, which is a lot of fun. Because previously, there were some decent legendary Minotaurs.
Nothing crazy good, though.
But nothing crazy good. Nothing on that level.
Especially budget that you can actually do a lot of powerful stuff with.
Right. So just simply having a nice commander for, a tribe that doesn't see a lot of love is a lot of fun.
And now actually Deathbellow Warcry from Theros is actually very playable because for 8 mana you can tutor out any 4 Minotaurs you want.
That's true.
So that deck should be a lot of fun.
All right, so Jumpstart is a lot of fun. There's a lot of awesome cards going into it, none of which are going into Standard.
Some going into Historic, however.
Some are going into Historic, that's correct. But recently we had our online Pro Tour qualifiers that we were watching, and it really kind of showed us a good look at the meta of Standard currently. And kind of is a shining reason as to why I don't really play a lot of Standard.
Yeah, I don't know if embarrassing would be exactly the right word to say about it. However, it was dull, I think is the correct word to talk about the Standard qualifiers. I would say is the right word for it.
Definitely dull. I mean, you have 2 decks that
dominate the meta.
Just the entire meta archetype deck of the whole thing, basically.
And at the end of the day, they're both centrally green and want to ramp out mana.
Right. I mean, yeah, when you look at them at their core, it's green and it's blue right at their core.
Absolutely.
The decks we're talking about, I'm sure you all know. We have Bant Ramp and we have Temur Reclamation.
Mm-hmm.
So these 2 decks, I mean, when you go to watch this, you're just looking at mirror matches, and every once in a while it's a Teamer Rec versus a Bant Ramp. And the whole time you're just thinking to yourself, man, I really wish I could see some of these other cards that are really cool get played by some of these pro guys, see if they can make them work.
Like Assassin's Trophy, that's a card that could be played in Standard. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of a card like called Assassin's Trophy. It's not very well known. However, it's quite good in Modern, and it destroys for 2 mana. I believe it's any permanent, Joe? Any permanent?
Yeah, it's any permanent.
Any permanent. Now, I don't know how many cards do that in the entirety of Magic, but you'd figure it'd be in Standard in a lot of decks, but it really isn't.
Yeah, that's, especially when you look at Standard, the power level, you'd think that card would be up there with all the rest of them.
But apparently not.
But, that's what happens when cards like Uro are printed.
And Nissa.
And Reclamation.
And even the banned cards of Once Upon a Time and Oko. Those cards aren't even in Standard anymore.
Yeah, looking at this, it makes me really wish that 3 Fairy had seen the axe when they banned Fires of Invention and
Agent of Treachery.
Agent of Treachery. Yeah, I really would have liked to see 3 Fairy go.
Yeah,
would have certainly made things a lot more interesting to look at.
The one of huge thing that advertises Magic the Gathering and makes it the most played TCG out of all of them, compared to say Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or any other card game, is the fact that it has interaction. Hearthstone, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, I don't believe you can play any sorts of cards on the other player's turn, from what I know. Granted, if you want to correct me in the comments, I don't play those other TCGs, but...
Aside from maybe activating a trap card or something, but...
Not quite the same thing.
Not quite the same thing, and obviously the feel of being able to interrupt the player, as they used to be called, played as interrupt, have things that you can do to stifle them on their turn. It's all flushed down the toilet when you got a 3 Fairy on the other side of you.
The promoting anti-interaction is why the card, I think, is not at the heart of Magic the Gathering, and I think it should just not be legal in either Modern or Standard. If you want to keep on Legacy and Vintage, that's fine, since there's cards already broken as it is there.
Right.
But, I just don't think that it makes the diversity of the game low, and as I've harped on a lot since the last couple of podcasts, variety is the spice of life, and is also the spice of Magic the Gathering, in my opinion.
Definitely. All right, so let's not be so negative with Standard. Let's move on to another topic.
True.
Though it's not an overly positive topic, but
no.
It's something that we'd like to talk about. And that's, seeing in Jumpstart and even M21, we're seeing some reprints of cards that are super expensive and definitely need reprinting. But we wanted to look at some of the cards that haven't been announced to be reprinted yet, or cards that we think need to be reprinted.
Absolutely. You got to give Wizards credit where credit is due. Between these 3 sets of Jumpstart, Double Masters, and Core 21, there's a lot of good reprints. Cards that range from $40 to $200 and anywhere in between. A bunch of them being reprinted. Ugin, Oracle, Moldiah, Grim Tutor, Mana Crypt, Blightsteel Colossus, Kalia. A lot of very good reprints. However, there should be a lot of cards that still should be reprinted also, in my opinion, for health of formats such as Modern or Pioneer.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, just to make it more affordable and let a lot of other people get access to playing these cards. So what are some of the cards that we're thinking should be reprinted in the near future?
Well, if you took a look at the Modern metagame right now, the top decks are, say, Urza, Yoroza, Titanfield, some of those decks, and a lot of those cards are green and blue. When you think of green and blue, one of the top cards that come to mind as you've watched a Standard, you might think of is Uro, first of all, one of the Titans, starting at $47 per card, in a set that was released only one before Ikoria in Theros.
Yeah, that's an incredibly recent set. This is not an old card from a bygone era of Magic that's really rare. This is a card that was mass produced. I mean, granted,
6 months.
Yes, he's a mythic rare, but the price of him is insane.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
For being such a recent set.
Tarmogoyf is currently around $38, and he's been reprinted a lot. However, he's been a staple in Modern for years now.
Mm-hmm.
And he has fallen below Uro. Uro's having mass production right now, and to place it is about $200. I think even Crux at $17 is a bit too much in my opinion. However, I mean, $50 for a card that's new is just kind of ridiculous and needs a reprint, I think, of one of these 2 sets.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. What about Thoughtseize?
Thoughtseize would be a nice card to be reprinted. I mean, Before the announcement of Pioneer, it was around $8 to $10, and now it's lowest that it's been in a while at $19 to $20. However, it jumped as high as $30 and between $30 and $33 at one point, which is ridiculous for a 1-mana card.
You know, and as a player who puts Thoughtseize in about half the decks that they brew for Modern, this is something I'd really like.
Yeah, a reprint would take it probably back around that $10 range. I would be able to make it have maybe even more than a play set, because if you play a lot of Modern and you have multiple decks and you're a big black mana fan, you're going to have a lot of Thoughtseizes.
Definitely. Which artwork would you want reprinted? Theros?
I love Theros artwork personally. I know, but I wouldn't say the Lorwyn artwork's bad. But maybe just a new artwork might be interesting.
That could be cool too.
Why not?
New artwork spikes a lot of interest for all the players and stuff, and it becomes a talking point for sure online.
Maybe if we're going back to Zendikar, maybe an Emrakul kind of Thoughtseize-centric card where she is warping the mind of, say, a human being and infecting them as a vessel. That'd be interesting.
That's an awesome idea.
I don't work for Wizards. They got to do their job.
So what about Force of Negation?
Force of Negation. Now that's a card that I got in early doors. Bought mine at $27. It is now as high as $43 per card.
Yeah, that bums me out because I never picked up a playset of it.
I mean, if you're playing Control nowadays in Modern or any set Legacy, or possibly even Commander, you're going to be playing Force of Negation a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's sent almost a lot of the time a free counterspell on any non-creature. It exiles. So it's going to be pretty important. And at $43 and jumping, however, I mean, steadily it's gone up from $27, and it hasn't just jumped since the meta has rose or fall. It is steadily increased from, well, you know what I mean. It is steadily increased from 27 to 30 to 33 all the way up to 4. It's not going down anytime soon.
Yeah, and if you want to play Control in Modern, you got to have it.
You already got to buy Cryptic Command. That's at 16.
I mean, you got to have it. I mean, and also it's a sideboard staple for sure. I mean,
other decks that aren't even Control.
Are you playing some blue? You
probably want to throw it in.
You're going to throw that thing in there.
You know?
I mean, you see Dredge using it in their sideboard.
Yeah, Dredge can use Force Negation. A lot of blue decks can.
Yeah, that's definitely one that could use a reprint. What about Walking Ballista?
Walking Ballista. Now, when you think of a card that branches both the Pioneer meta and Modern meta, Thoughtseize might be number 1, but Walking Ballista might be number 2. Yeah, for sure.
Walking Ballista instantly skyrocketed in price when the popularity of Pioneer skyrocketed itself.
It's never been a cheap card, but now it's around $30 per. It's probably about time that it gets a reprint. I mean, it could definitely go into Commander Legends, in my opinion, or even Double Masters. Think about it. It takes 2x generic mana costs in order to play the card. Double Masters, 2x. Makes sense to me.
Makes sense. You know, Double Masters is something I'm really hoping has a lot of these reprints that we're talking about here.
I mean, especially if the box is going to be around $300 a print buy. It better have a lot of expensive cards in it.
What about Chalice of the Void?
Chalice of the Void, although it's gone down a lot since the last couple of years because red-white prison has gone down in popularity a lot. Mm-hmm. Still, it's around $30 to $35, you know? You know, if you're going to play red-white prison, you're going to need Blood Moons, you're going to need Planeswalkers, you're going to need Chalice of the Voids. I mean, you're going to need Arid Mesas at 40 each. I mean, and now with Shocklands, a bit expensive as they are, you know, we got to start reprinting some of those pieces. I mean, if you want to play the deck type, you can make it a little bit more affordable.
That's for sure, yeah. What about Cavern of Souls?
Cavern of Souls is $60. And if you're going to play humans, you're playing maybe more than one of them.
You're playing almost any tribe deck.
Yeah.
I would argue. I mean, if you're going to play elves, if you want to try werewolves, if you want to try cats, vampires, if you want to try any kind of tribe deck, which, I mean, when you look at Magic a lot, it almost feels like they want you to play tribe decks. They want you to be the humans versus zombies, or the, you know, werewolves versus the elves, or, you know,
cats versus dogs.
Cats versus dogs now. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's almost like they want you to play tribe decks, but one of the cards that's basically needed. You need it to play to really actually compete with some of these control decks that are just counter all the stuff that you have. You need Cavernous Souls. It's a necessity.
A playset at 240 if you want to put it in a deck is just ridiculous. I mean, it's so hard to afford.
It is.
I mean, Werewolf deck on its own might be $100 if you think about it overall with shocks and everything else.
Right.
Then the other 4 cards in there are going to make it almost $350. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Right. You put in, you're gonna maybe add an Aether Vial and Cavernous Souls, and boom.
Yeah, there's your deck price.
You're already up there, and that doesn't even count, the fetch land cost, of course, which is a whole other discussion.
Or Shocklands. What do you think about the price of Shocklands right now, Joe?
Oof. Yeah, the price of Shocklands, they're shocking.
I never would have thought of that one.
Yeah, no, when I first started playing, when I was brand new to the game, I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to buy these Shocklands. Maybe I'll go ahead and just keep some tapped lands in my modern decks here. I'm like $4 for them, $6. In a couple cases, maybe even 10. I was kind of like, I don't know.
That's ridiculous.
I don't know if I want to spend this kind of money on it. But as I get into the game and I start spending more and more money on the game, you kind of understand that Shocklands at $6,
pretty good deal.
That's a pretty good deal. And now when you're looking at the prices of them, they're upwards of what?
10 to 15 at minimum.
It just once again raises the barrier of entry into the game, especially when you want to play even Pioneer or Modern or Commander, where you want these various lands. Shocklands are also one of those cards that's basically necessary for you to play the game at a competitive level, to be able to have this mana that's fetchable and readily available as soon as you grab it. It doesn't come in slowly.
Right.
It's something you need.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're playing minimum 4 in every modern deck, upwards to possibly 8, 6 to 8 to maybe even 10 in a Pioneer deck because you don't have fetch lands.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're playing breeding pools in any sort of deck because we know Simic's not that bad right now.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be playing a lot of breeding pools. That's going to run you almost $100 for a playset. It's ridiculous. It got as high as almost $30 for a Shockland. That was more than a Polluted Delta at one point, which is a fetch.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts to see. Just the lack of reprints for this is the reason that's so expensive. I mean, obviously, it's attributed to the popularity of Pioneer and the popularity of Commander, which is always going up. But certainly, for the players that want to play it in Modern, I mean, it was just like all of a sudden, Shocklands were just as hard to get as some fetches.
Great, another fetch land you got to buy pretty much is that when you're thinking about it.
Yeah, and whenever I try to get a friend or something into Magic or into Modern specifically, and I tell them, I'm like, you know what? Here's a cool deck. Half of the deck price goes right into lands. Sometimes
if
even
more.
Sometimes even more.
Right.
And I think that's just a trend that needs to end. I mean, obviously, everyone's making the argument that Wizards needs to reprint fetch lands.
Which they do.
But, Shocklands, they're up there as well.
Yeah.
I could even make the argument for a lot of the fast lands, too.
Or even the buddy lands, The $5?
The buddy lands, yeah, from Pioneer and Standard, and they're getting up there, too.
Because of Pioneer again.
And we don't want to run into an issue where it's just all lands are just way too expensive, or your only other option is to play a monocolor deck.
Which is not always that fun, because, as you can't just go into a Modern event and be like, all right, I can only play Mono Green Stompy or White Weenies or Blue Devotion or Burn. It just, again, it ruins the variety of the decks you can play, which is always a very negative thing.
Yeah. What about Horizon Canopy? That's another land.
Horizon Canopy, another land. I think we're seeing a trend here.
Mm-hmm.
It's, as we've seen, with the new Horizon lands printed in Modern Horizons, the draw lands are incredibly useful for a lot of decks, especially decks like Grixis Death Shadow, which if it gets a Rakdos or a Dimir land is going to be even way better.
Definitely.
Having, more value on lands than just tapping it for mana is a lot of, importance to a lot of decks. And Horizon Canopy has been an important land for a lot of decks forever. I mean, at one point it was $60, I want to say, around Humans.
Oh, it was,
and now it's fallen around, what, $30?
Yeah, around 30. And, back when Bant Spirits was a big deck, I mean, the price of that was insanely high.
Bant Spirits and Humans in the meta. Oh.
When you look at the meta now and you see that Humans has fallen out quite a bit.
Yeah, it's hanging around.
Compared to what it was.
And it's still 30.
And Bant Spirits, where's that?
It's nowhere.
No one's playing Bant Spirits anymore. And you look at this card and it's still $30, even though it's not being played that often in Modern.
It tells you something.
That really, that tells you that you need a reprint to get this price down. And, we got a couple of Horizon lands in Modern Horizons that do the same thing for some of the other colors. Obviously, I'm hoping that in the next Horizon set, we're going to get our next cycle of them to finish off the colors.
I would love a Rakdos one.
I'm assuming that that's something that they're planning to do.
They have to, in my opinion.
But you know what? Why don't they throw Horizon Canopy in there?
Why not? It should be.
Get that price down. Maybe Horizon Canopy in Double Masters.
And then also throw in the fast lands that are not currently in Pioneer, because those need to be legal.
That's true.
Blackcleave Cliffs, reprint. Please, Wizards.
That would be insanely good in Pioneer.
Yes, absolutely. What do you think about Prismatic Vista, Joe? Another land.
Another land from Horizons.
$30.
$30 for Prismatic Vista.
It's an evolution of a Fabled Passage, and it's $30.
Yeah, I always get frustrated because it's like, when this card was first shown, I kind of had a little hope that I'm like, all right, well, hey, you know what? If I'm playing like a 2-color deck, I could throw this in there and it'll be pretty much just as good as a fetch land for me in a lot of cases.
You looked at it and you thought, with Fabled Passage and Prismatic Vista, maybe a 2-color budget deck in Modern is possible now, because shocks weren't that much at the time. Now with Prismatic Vista, we can fetch up that one I might need. It's not that big a deal. Nope, it's $30.
It's $30, and you're going to want to play set. That's a lot of money to spend.
Yeah, more than most fetches.
Yeah, so you know what? You're better off just sticking to your fetches. Yep. And in a lot of cases, for decks that are playing on the snow,
it's necessary.
You're going to want Prismatic Vista because you're like, hey, I got to go get a snow forest.
It can't be a basic.
Let's go get that. That's perfect. It's perfect for that. So that's just another card that's kind of annoying to see how expensive it is.
Absolutely, another land.
What else do we have on our list here?
Is that Jace Vryn's Prodigy, Joe?
Jace Vryn's Prodigy.
What's that running at right now? $27?
$27 around there, yeah.
I mean, how much was it before Pioneer came out? I don't even know.
Or $10 maybe most? At the most?
And now it's a place that's $130, $120?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I mean, Wizards needs to look at the cards that are being played in the new formats they're coming out with. When they come out with Pioneer and they know that certain cards are going to explode in the meta of that particular format, I would hope that they would see that and go, all right, we now know what cards are being played in Pioneer. Enough time has passed. It's been, 8 months or so since Pioneer came out, around
roughly,
there?
Yeah, getting on a year here soon.
They know which cards are going to be the staples of the format now. And when you look at these prices, you'd think, all right, well, we know that this needs a reprint, so let's reprint it.
Boom. There you go. That's how it should go, you'd think.
Simple as that.
And the last one I think we got here on the list is Mana Confluence. Another land.
Mana Confluence. I got really lucky. I picked up Mana Confluence maybe a month or two before Pioneer was announced.
How much did you get those for?
I want to say I spent maybe $8 on each of them.
And how much would you have to spend now for two? $50.
$50 for two of them. That's ridiculous.
It wasn't played in like any decks before Pioneer came out. And now it's $50.
You know what? I bought them to be a replacement for Blackcleave Cliffs, which were
$40 at the time.
They were way more expensive than Mana Confluence. And I thought to myself, you know what? It kind of gets the job done. It's not as good, but I sacrificed a little life so that I can have this, 3-color deck plan work out for me without, having to fork out the money for Blackcleave Cliffs. And it's hilarious because Blackcleave Cliffs is now cheaper.
Yeah.
Than Mana Confluence.
$20 to $22 instead.
I mean, how did that happen?
I couldn't even tell you.
It's because it's been printed, what? How many times Mana Confluence been printed?
I think it just once in Journey into Nyx.
Just once.
The hilarious thing was, Journey into Nyx was in Theros block. What set did we just get recently? Theros Beyond Death. Pioneer's been out for 8 months. Theros Beyond Death came out 4 months ago-ish now. Maybe a little bit longer. It should have been just pre-printed in there. It would have been perfectly on theme.
Absolutely perfect. And just being able to drive those prices down is something that's just so important for the game. And that's kind of why we get a little heated about it.
Yeah.
Because we want as many people as possible to play as many decks as possible, because we want to see creativity in the game. We want to see diversity in the metas that we see. And, when you try to get a new player into the game and you tell them, like, hey, you got to spend $25 if you want to play, paper Magic. I mean, there's a reason why in a few years Arena is just going to take off, and Paper Magic is going to start to feel like a thing of the past if these cards don't start to get reprinted.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm not going to end this, discussion on a negative note, because Wizards has been reprinting cards.
You have to give them credit.
We have to give them credit for doing that. Because some of the cards that they've been reprinting, are right on the money. They needed to be reprinted. But they still have a long way to go to drive some of these prices down where they need to be, where they should be.
And there would be an easy plan to set up. I've been thinking about a plan a while for Wizards to set up a reprint system a while for now. You come out with your 3 unique sets every year for Standard and 1 core set. And then typically they've had a Master set every year and then some Commander products.
Right.
Why not just do this? Core sets every other year biannually. 1 year, they reprint fetches and they reprint buddy lands in the 1 core set together. The next year in the core set, they reprint the shocks and the fast lands. So that way they always have equal mana bases for everyone. So not decks like in Pioneer that play Rakdos or anything else like that aren't just automatically thrown to the side because they don't have their fast lands available. And also every deck has an even playing field in it as far as expensiveness. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I know a lot of people would say that they wouldn't want to see fetch lands in Standard. Some of the arguments I see is just that they're too powerful, or
shuffling's too much,
or shuffling takes too long when need to fetch up their land and then sit there and shuffle. But you know what? There's already a lot of shuffle effects in Standard now.
Absolutely.
There's already a lot of broken, powerful cards in Standard. I mean, half the cards in Standard are being played in Modern. Right. Some of them are being played in Legacy. So those 2 arguments are kind of out the window.
And it's like, would you rather have to shuffle for 30 more seconds because of a fetch land or pay $50 more for it? That's the argument I would make.
Imagine how easy it would be to make some of these 3-color decks.
If Verdant Catacombs was $20 at the most.
Dude, it'd be awesome. So we're not going to end this on the more negative note about talking about how WotC needs to start doing more things for us or whatever. Kind of want to end this on the positive note that Jumpstart kind of jump-started my love for Magic again. And I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite card from Jumpstart that you saw so far?
It's got to be Tiny Bones. Got to stick with the Tiny Bones.
Got to stick with the Tiny Bones.
What's yours?
I was thinking about this, and part of me wanted to say Lightning Bolt, because I love to see it whenever it's reprinted. But I ended up going with Thought Scour.
Good choice.
Which is a weird choice. The reason I chose it is because it says Mill on the card.
It's very nice.
And I love to see that Mill is now an actual word on text, on the text of a card.
Everyone was saying it anyway.
Everyone was saying it anyway. Mill too. Now it's on the card, and I love it.
Yeah. As we've talked about, this discussion isn't just, Wizards are doing bad again. It's very positive, though. It's the fact that to keep the trend going, Core Set, great reprints. Jumpstart, great reprints. Double Masters from the few we've seen, good reprints. Hopefully in the future, Wizards keeps us going, and then Commander Legends just explodes it open, and then the fetch lands will be in there. We won't have to talk about the fetch lands being reprinted anymore. That's what I'm hoping for.
Definitely. Yeah, it's nice to be really hopeful and be excited about what's coming up in the future, and really looking forward to Double Masters here coming up.
Yeah, that's going to be a big deal for me.
So that's going to be it for us, guys. I want to thank you all for listening, and if you haven't already and you're enjoying this content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to go ahead and hit the like button, that would help a lot. Gets our video out to a lot more people. The more likes we get, the better. And also, I'd like to ask you to follow us on our Instagram page and our Twitter page. You can find that handle here at the end card. It's Coast Lizards. That's it for us.
Yep. And if you want to comment down below. Tell us what's your favorite card from Jumpstart so far. And on that note, make sure to pay your parking and have a good night.
It'd be awesome.
Oh, it looks so nice.